All right, the computer lady said recording in progress. Oh, I hope that was recording. I never know whether it's like started recording and it's going to cut off my words. Whatever. Welcome, everyone. It's Friday, August 20th, 2021. We've got a special celebrity guest today. And it's Dylan Black. And this is Celebrity Josh, or I guess that's the name of the show. We'll see. I'm Josh Rackless, but I'm going to change my name too. And maybe the show will be called Spark the Genius, and that'll be my name. I don't know. But this guy has a cool name. It's Dylan Black.
And I swear it's real too. It's my real name.
That was going to be my question, because it sounds very much like a radio name. Like, it's Dylan Black. Like, that's the name I would take on if I was going to pick a fake name for radio and TV.
I swear it's not fake at all.
Oh,
So, and it's funny because you introduced me as a celebrity. Like, come on, you've interviewed Jim Carrey.
Yes.
Like, come on, that is something. That's a celebrity.
That is a celebrity. I guess if it's and relatively speaking, then you're not a celebrity. Who the heck are you? Why am I wasting my time? But I'll tell you why I'm wasting my time, because you're free. Not costing me money, because I messaged a guy on Instagram this week. What's his name? I forget his name, but I just saw him he was sort of trending on John Cena's feed, and he's known as the Black John Cena, because he looks just like him, but he's black. And I said, hey, I can interview you. And he's like, oh, that'd be great. So would you be willing to do like a little donation? I'm like, what do you mean? Like, do you mean donate money to you? Yeah. Like, I've been doing a lot of interviews lately, and I want to, I got to make it worth my time. I'm like, I don't have a lot of money right now, but we'll see. Yeah. But I don't know, but probably not, because why would I?
There's probably more people that out there that you could, I'm free is what I'm saying. And there's lots of guys like me just willing to just do whatever it takes to be there for the people, and you're a good guy, and I see all the traction you're getting, and my goodness, night one for or your competition, for Yuck Yucks, you won. You were like first place that night.
Thank you. Yes, and so for those of you who don't know, I was in the Yuck Yucks summer contest a month ago, and I did it last year, and I didn't get past the first round because I wasn't still fresh. I don't know, whatever. But somehow I got better this summer or winter, and then I did it again this week or last month, and not only did I get in the top 3 of the night, I was voted number 1. And Dylan was kind of, I guess, the only judge, right? Like the Yuck Yucks owner isn't judging.
No, there was another judge from Ottawa Life magazine. She was there as well. I forget her name, but the room also judged. So me being one of the judges, I don't think that really matters, because I think the other people in the room also so incredible. Like, you did great, and I think your opening joke was like just off the top of your head, and it impressed me. It was about the sweat on your shirt. Oh
yes, I forgot about that. Yeah, that's I gotta have to go back and look at my tapes. I find that every time I do it, like even the last time, it's like whatever I do for the first minute where I'm just sort of off the top of my head seems to be the peak of it. I was dripping sweat, and I said something about this is a Rorschach test, and whatever the funniest thing you can think of, that's what this is, or whatever.
So I don't know when you're publishing this exactly, but you did advance to the second round. So when this comes out, you're either going to be on to the finals, or you're out. You're ousted. So I wish you the best of luck.
Thanks. Well, I'll try to get this up very soon, because I've got like 9 interviews from the past 2 weeks, and I haven't sat down to put the details on the file and the description for the podcast, but I've started yesterday, so I'm just going to try to get them all out so I'm caught up, and I want to definitely get this up before the contest so that it's still relevant, and then who knows, maybe there's people all over the world listening to this that'll say, hey, I want to go to Ottawa and I want to watch this comedy show, and they'll buy a table of 5 seats. I guess you have to buy 5 seats, right? I guess because of COVID, they don't want people sitting together that don't know each other. Is that the idea?
Yeah, it's all crazy. Everything changes daily, right? And of course, the venue is even different from where you were for your night. It was on Preston. Now it's back on Elgin at live on Elgin. And my goodness, Yuck Yucks is just hanging on. They've done such a great job adapting throughout COVID, and the summer comedy competition continues for organ donation, and guys like yourself and gals, just you get up there and I mean, I've been in radio coming up to almost 25 years, and I've been lucky to be in front of crowds of thousands, but I don't know if I could do that. Because
Yeah, it's really, I don't like it. Like it's the one thing, like when I was doing it even 15 years ago, I'm like when I'm about to do a class show or whatever, I just tell myself, I don't have to do this. I could just curl up in a ball and never leave my apartment again. And that's how I
Yeah.
felt again last month. But even the girl that came in second, I think before we went on or after, she was saying, oh, I'm so nervous. I don't want to do this. So I think a lot of people feel that way. But
Yeah.
that's why I do it. Like I just try to force myself to do
Mhm.
things that I know make me really uncomfortable because I feel that's the way to grow and learn. Like that's why I've ran
Yeah.
for member of provincial parliament and mayor, and I've had to do like debates in front of audiences. And like I don't feel like I know anything about these things. Like I haven't memorized the policies and all this, so it scares the heck out of me. But I try to just force myself to do it, so I don't ever look back and go, oh well, I should have tried it, but I was too scared.
Yeah. I think we're quite alike in that way because I mean, you can either, this is a philosophy I've lived by for years. At the end of the night, at the end of the day, you can lay there in bed and say you either did it or you didn't do it. And which would you rather feel better? The day is going to pass no matter what, right? You can either and get up there, do that comedy show, get up there, give that speech, run for election, run for whatever, um, or you can not do it. And then day after day after day after day passes, and you haven't done any of these things, and you don't have any cool stories,
Yeah,
right?
and that's the thing. And I remember the first time I ran for office, I went to the debate. I was a bit late showing up, and it had already started. It was at Baycrest, like seniors' home that my grandmother, I think, was staying in at the time. And I showed up, and the other people were debating. The liberal and the conservative were like yelling at each other, and they, I guess they had a lot of history, so they knew each other. Like, and I was just like, I can't go up there. I can't yell at people. And so I just stood in the back, and then some woman came up to me afterwards. She's like, "Were you the Green Party person? Oh, I would have wanted to hear what you had to say." And I was like, and I just felt so bad. I went home and I started crying. I was like, these people, they wanted to see me and have me say what I thought and have their opinion on me and stuff. And I just felt I never want to do that again. I never want to let them down, and just because I'm scared. So
Right.
yeah, so I just force myself to go up now, and usually in these debates, I just try to kind of be funny. I'll
Mhm.
just be make sense, and then the people come up and like, "Oh my God, you're the funniest person," and stuff. Like try to keep it interesting for people. Um,
Yeah.
and
You
then
just have
yeah,
to go. You have to go for it sometimes, right?
yeah, and
And
that's why like even with comedy, like I did it first in university, like at home, but we had a talent night, and then I did Yuck Yucks a few times when I was like early 20s, and I just never pursued it. It's very easy to go, yeah, I'll do that one day, and I'm not going to sit down and do it now. And then just during COVID, I was like, oh my God, like if I don't do it now, when am I ever gonna, like I've always assumed I was gonna be Woody Allen, be this famous comedian, but have I done it? So I just yeah, I did the summer contest last year, and then I took some classes on Zoom just to force myself to keep working on it each week, and then I did some classes at Absolute Comedy, and then I'm trying it again. And then I'm still kind of not ready. Like I went to Swizzles on Monday just to watch it because I'm not ready. And then I went to this other show on Russell Road just to watch it because I'm not ready. But I
yeah,
should start getting ready and just be able to have like 10 jokes or something and just be ready to go up anytime. Because every time you don't do it, it's like, well, that's another chance you could have just been up there doing it.
it's all about experience. Everything in life is experience, and and imitation. Quite honestly, because when I was a young kid, I lived in Vankleek, Ontario, in between Montreal and Ottawa. So I got all the major market radio stations like blasting in, and I listened to these incredible announcers, and I thought to myself, like I'm only 17, 18 at this point, and I thought to myself, if I ever go to radio school, I got to sound like these people.
Mm.
And if I sound like them, then I'm going to get on those stations. And I sort of did. Like I listened. Like I'm a mimicker. Like I can listen, and I sort of can take it on, and that's one of my talents. And so it's just like watching these comedians, right? It's like it's watching them, and then you get up there. You don't completely steal from them, but you sample from them, right? And you just, if it's working for them, maybe you can try it in your own way. And
Yeah.
practice honestly makes perfect. You just got to keep trying it over and over and over again.
Yeah, and that's why even when I go to these shows, I sort of bring my notebook and it gets my head thinking like, oh yeah, he said something about his family. I could do something with my family, or
Yeah.
or sometimes I just like going to open mics, go, you know what? Not everybody, like everybody's kind of struggling. Nobody's like some people suck. Like it's just, but they're still doing it. So it just reminds me that we're all human. I can do that too. And
Yeah.
yeah, just it does inspire me. I go, oh yeah, somebody, just the way they say something or they did a punchline. I'm like, oh, do I have anything I could do like that? And
Mhm.
so yeah, so it's definitely learning, and you sort of learn about, oh yeah, that's how punchlines work, or how to keep it short or not go too long. And
Mhm.
I don't know what the whole point of it all is, but it's just one of those things I like to do, and it's kind of like a community of people that hopefully you can become friends with, because you're all being creative, you're all trying. I
Yeah,
know,
it's
like,
such it's a small community here in Ottawa, and everybody knows each other. So, don't burn bridges, don't talk about anybody, because the chances are that person will be friends with the person you're talking about.
yeah,
And doors open, windows open, opportunities, just by networking, right?
yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I noticed, like, when I went to Swizzles, there's this guy Liam on stage, and he's like, "Oh, I've got a show," and so that he was hosting the show on Wednesday. Like, it looks like everybody hosts their own show on different nights of the week,
Yeah.
and yeah, I don't know. Yeah, my fantasy would be like, okay, I'm gonna go to LA, and I'm gonna be like an Amy Schumer's clique, and all the comedians were all friends. So I followed her on Instagram this week, and I just started looking at all the other comedians that she was following, and then I was messaging them to be like, hey, you want to be in my podcast? Just I felt like, okay, that'll be me, like getting several degrees from, or I don't know, somehow being close to that little thing. So I like the idea of stand up just because it's just you with a mic, so you don't have to rehearse with 20 people, or you don't have to have props, and if you're in another town, you can be like, hey, I can come up and do my little bits. Like, it doesn't rely on anything else but you, and so I like the simplicity and purity of that.
Mm, totally.
But
Well, I was impressed.
thank you. And it's
Very.
very encouraging to hear that. And you know what, even if I don't advance or whatever, it's like you just keep doing it. You can throw your stuff on TikTok, you throw it on Instagram, and just see what happens. I mean, in the old days, it used to be that the goal was you keep doing shows until you can get on the Tonight Show, and then hopefully somebody gives you a sitcom or something. But I guess now anybody can do anything. You could just have your own online stuff. Or there's these big comedians like Andrew, whatever his name is. He's got this podcast called Flagrant 2. I don't even know what that means, but he's got YouTube clips, and he's kind of this big thing. And so,
Yeah, you can build it up anywhere. That's the cool part, right?
mhm.
Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Like, it's crazy the amount of social media that's out there, right? And you can hit a different demographic in every one. Um,
Yeah,
and
well,
your
that's the
numbers grow.
what's
Yeah.
that?
No, your numbers grow, and your followers grow, and it's just it's fun to watch and to see how creative you can get, and like I said, practice makes perfect. Even if you make mistakes, like I said on the radio, quarter century almost, and I make mistakes every show, but it's not the end of things. You keep moving.
Yeah,
You
nobody
keep-
cares.
yeah,
Nobody would even notice probably anyways. And what's a mistake? It's not. I mean, if
yeah,
you're a brain surgeon, there's probably a mistake, but if
yeah.
you're
You don't want to make those mistakes.
no, but if you're radio, it's like whatever. It's just another interesting story. And that's
Yeah,
actually been my other dream, like to be on radio. I found an old cassette tape of me. I sound like a girl on it, so I must have been like 11 or 12, and it's me like interviewing my sister and just talking about the weather. And then I would had a double tape deck, so I'd cut to the radio, and then I'd come back,
yeah.
and I loved it. So it's always been my fantasy. When I was working in my first job in Ottawa, when I was like 25 or something, I looked up the radio stations, and I met with a couple of hosts once, and they said, okay, we'll go do a test to see what kind of correspondent you can be. I'm like, I don't know what to do. So I think at the time there was a teacher's strike, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna actually. I was dumb because I had this friend, my art director Ian was a bit of a cynical, sarcastic guy, and he's like, oh, you know what you should do? You should go to the mall and like interview people, but pretend that you think the students are in strike. And I'm like, oh, I guess I don't know. So I tried talking to people and saying, so why are you on strike? They're like, but I'm not on strike. They didn't make any sense, first of all,
Yeah,
and it sounded like
yeah.
I was being kind of mean. And then I got cut out or kicked out of the Rideau Center because you're not allowed to interview people randomly in the mall. So I think I sent them the tape, and then eventually they just said, no, that's not the style of comedy we like, or something. It was just too mean. Or
Oh,
something. I'm like, oh, but I'm not mean. And that was it. And
wow.
then I think when I was 27, I was in Toronto, and I emailed Humble and Fred, uh, Howard Glassman, Humble Howard, and I said, hey, could I come intern or come meet you or something? And I think he emailed back saying, yeah, come by. But it was like 6 a.m. or something. It was like something too early, or there was some reason I didn't go. Or he said, come by with an idea. And I'm like, I don't have an idea. And I just never talked to him again. And then I met him years later, like when I was 40 or something. I'm like, and I told him that. And he's like, well, why didn't you come by? I'm like, I don't know. And then, so then I'm getting
Huh.
to the end of my radio history. My friend Tony Daniels was friends with people at CFRB, and he got us on um, filling in for Jim Richards in Toronto a few times. And they actually said, you'd want to do it yourself. I'm like, no, I'll do it with Tony, which I should have just done it myself, but I did it with him. And then the program manager left, and that was it. I never got back on. And then that was it. I went on Humble Howard's podcast a few times. And then 2 years ago, just before the pandemic, I applied for a couple of jobs. One was in Yorkton, Saskatchewan, where they needed somebody all week to go to City Hall and report, and you could get on the air once a week. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to be Yorkton for a year. And then the other job, they were looking for a morning host in Timmins, and they were like, why do you want to move up north? And I was like, I guess I don't. And I never got back to them. And that was it. But now I'm like, I could have been there up north for a year. Like, why didn't I? And then that's it. So how did you get into radio?
Well, I mean, but it's not for everybody too. And if you're at your age and all of a sudden it's like, let's just move to Timmins, like to get experience, maybe that's not something you want to do right at this stage.
Yeah, and that's what Humble Howard said to me even like 10 years ago. He's like, what are you going to do? You're going to move to a small town and work your way up for 20 years? And I'm like, I guess not. And even at the time, I mean, I wouldn't mind it, but yeah, like in my head, I was like, my God, if I was 22, I would have loved that. Go to a small town, maybe I'll meet the cute girl who lives in the town and we'll get married or whatever. But I'm like, at my age, yeah, what am I going to do? This town where I don't know anybody, and then that means I might never find a wife and have kids, because I never did, and I'm stupid. And then I'm like, it felt like I would be lonely and trapped. But on the other hand, a year flies by pretty fast, and I don't really think
Yeah.
I can't think of anything I've done in Ottawa for the past year, really. So it's like maybe I just should have. So who knows?
Well, it sounds like you're really open to all kinds of different things, and which is great, right? Because some people just stay like on their path in life and they don't do any different stuff. But it sounds like you've dabbled in all kinds of things.
I guess, and I mean, is it because I worked in advertising, but I was always like, there's other stuff to do. So I would like do the Second City Conservatory, or I took screenwriting and I won a big award for my first draft of my first screenplay in LA. But I never did anything with it. A producer gave me notes and I never sat down to sort of work. So I feel like I start things and I just don't continue. And I have a girlfriend for 3 years, but then I break up with her. And then I'm in advertising, but I don't become a creative director because I'm like, I want to try something else, but then I do nothing. So I don't know if it's ADHD or if it's just, well, just trying different things. Everything's an experiment. But hopefully I can still find happiness. Are you, because you look like, what I would be if I was successful and smart. Like you've got, I used to host Rogers Cable too for a few years in Toronto when I was in my early 20s as well.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I was in a play, I guess 4th year university. I answered an ad in the paper. I was in some play, and then a woman in the play saw me draw a cartoon on the card for the director. She's like, oh, I like your little drawings. I'm hosting this show called Garage Sale on Rogers, and you could come host with me. So she was taking calls. People would call in and buy and sell things. And as they're talking, I would draw a funny cartoon of the thing and then tell a story about it. And then eventually people were just calling in like, I just want a cartoon and stuff. But at the time, I was a bit of a jerk. I thought, you know what? I'm Second City. I'm special. This woman's just like a regular woman. I want my own show or so. So like, okay. So then they put me with another woman, but I'm like, well, she's just a waitress. She's not. And then I was just looking back now. I'm like, what are you talking about? They were smart. They were funny. Like they were your partners. So I guess we learn. I don't like to think that I'm an idiot. I don't know.
No, that's definitely part of the business, though. I mean, you're not really above anybody. I mean, everybody's got their own talents and stuff. And I've been part of the Rogers TV family for maybe 10 years or so, off and on, appearing here and there. And I've been the host of daytime. Gosh, it's been off air for a year and a half, but I was the main host for about 3 years. And there's so many great co-hosts joined me, so many great people on the couch across from me being interviewed, and so many stories to be told, right? Everybody's got a story, everybody's got a talent, and you're really not above anybody in this business because here today, gone tomorrow, right? So you've got to be careful of that as well. So you don't want to burn bridges. You don't want people to think you're a jerk. You don't want people to, you want at the end of the day, you want to be a good guy, and it's out of your control whether or not you're still part of the team like a week later or a month later. And I've come up against that a bunch of times in radio, unfortunately, having lost my position. And I believe one of my strengths is that I'm a hard worker, I'm a good networker, and I'm willing to adapt. I'm willing to take, guidance, constructive criticism. It doesn't matter how many years you have under your belt, like you have to adapt to what they want.
Yeah.
And that's one of the, go ahead.
How did you get into radio and TV? Like what was your path?
Well, so I was student council president in high school in Vankleek Hill, and I used to read the morning announcements, and people used to say nice compliments about how it sounded and all that. I'm 18, 19 years of age. But first I went to concurrent teacher education at Peterborough at Trent University. I was going to become a teacher, but I didn't want to stay, so I left, and then I went to Loyalist College in Belleville. for the radio broadcasting program, graduated in 99. And I was lucky because I mean, I worked in radio stations in Belleville, Trenton, but I landed in Ottawa before I graduated. So I was very lucky, and I've been here ever since. So that's 1999. And but it's, you know, it's been amazing. I've got to interview my heroes. I've got to do some incredible charity work that's like a major part of my life. But I have lost my position a few times. And, you know, even during these COVID days, you always wonder what's going to happen. You know, you hear about cutbacks all over the place, people losing money. So it's a scary industry, but it's in my blood. So there's that.
That's the thing. I mean, that Hummel and Fred, I guess, I mean, I don't know, they lost their morning show somehow. And so they started their own podcast, and I think they broadcast the podcast on Sirius and CFRB again or something.
Mhm.
But yeah, it sounds all, I mean, even the biggest hosts, like it's tenuous. Like even at the best of times, radio, there's not a lot of money. It's kind of difficult. And then now it's, you know, probably gets harder and harder. So yeah, you don't go into it because you're going to make $100 million, but you do it because you love it.
And you know, so for that, for a good amount of time, I was full time at Boom, and I was the full time host at Rogers TV, and I was also behind the scenes at Yuck Yucks and special events MC, voice work. You know, I have a 4-year-old. Like, life is busy, right? And you know, due to the pandemic, I was able to actually slow down a little bit, which was good and bad, you know, depending on how you look at it, right? Because the TV show went off air, Yuck Yucks struggled a bit. But you know, you're right. You don't do it for the money. I make enough to live, obviously, but you know, I just love what I do. I don't feel like it's work. I get to entertain.
That's what I was always wondering too. Like, would I really? I mean, I know I did love it actually when I did talk radio hosting and stuff. When people would call in and they'd be like, "Oh, I really love your show" and stuff. So I know I would love it. But yeah, I was wondering, like, is it that fulfilling? Like, you know, say I did find a little station that would take me on, because there's this website Milkman Unlimited, and they've got jobs posted all the time, and every now and then I'll post, but very different. I mean, it would have been hard for me to break in as a kid, never mind, yeah, I'm an old man now with no experience, what do you got? But is it fulfilling? It's fun, I guess, as I imagine.
It's totally. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's stressful because at the end of the day, it's a job, and you need to perform. You need to, like. I mean, I'm on air quite a bit. I'm on air here in Ottawa. I'm on air in Cornwall. I was doing the TV thing. You know, like you voice commercials, and if you're not sounding good, if you're not sounding up to it, well, they find somebody else. You know, so you always sort of have to be on. So with TV, it was even more, a little more stressful, because you even had to maybe look a certain way. Like you had to, you know, I had to fit in my TV clothes. I had to, you know, you have to be smiley, you have to be happy. Whereas radio, you still have to be, but it's not as visual. But it is still pretty visual because we do a lot of videos, a lot of pictures, a lot of that kind of stuff, right? So a lot of community. So you're out there and people see you. Extremely fulfilling because, like I said, I've got to be a part of almost, I think, 24, 25 CHEO telethons. I've got to, you know, work with Canadian Blood Services, you know, Make-A-Wish Foundation, like you name the charity, and perhaps I've had my hands in it somehow, and that to me, that's using the platform for good. So that's where I feel fulfilled the most.
Yeah, and I think that's what would make me feel fulfilled as well. Like, that's why I was always like, advertising, it's like I'm making ads, but I'm just making Procter and Gamble $1 billion. Like, what good am I doing for people? So if you can combine it with helping people, I always wanted to volunteer at the library and just read stories to kids or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can see, like, I had my aunt's funeral this afternoon, and I tried to put on black pants and a white shirt that I bought in the winter that fit. I bought these big clothes to be an extra as a cop in some like Hallmark type of movie, and they barely fit to now. I'm like, oh my God. So it's like, I understand growing out of clothes. And then I was thinking, I was talking to somebody this week about radio for some reason. And I was like, I wonder what radio is like now. I feel like they would probably always, you know, have a webcam live on them as they're on air and stuff. So people, it used to be, I've got the face for radio. That's the joke. But now you're probably doing videos on social media and stuff, or I don't know?
All the time. I mean, even today, so Boom's Facebook page has 315,000 people, and I did a Facebook Live. I go live and I talk to people, right? And I'm not saying all those people will tune in at once, but you get a few thousand over the course of a day or so.
Yep.
And you don't want to, you want to feel your best. You want to look your best. You want to be at the top of your game. You got to be careful what you say, especially in today's environment. You never know if something's going to come out that you're like, whoops, I shouldn't have said something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you gotta be careful. You have to make sure that you're saying the correct things. So there's definitely a stress that comes along with it. But I mean, my other role at the station is I'm the assistant music director. So I schedule the music for Boom along with a couple other members in my team, and so CRTC percentages, CanCon, non-hits. Like there's all these things that the flow of the station. So I do that, and then I go on air and I try to make it sound good. So it's a challenging career, and then you come home and you try to not think about it, but you probably notice on social media, I'm always on there, I'm always posting something, I'm always trying to stay relevant, right?
Yeah, that's the thing, because people either they see you or they forget about you. But it's
Yeah,
also psychology. The more people see your face, the more they like you. It's just getting familiar
yeah.
with you and everything. So that's good. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, just in terms of always sort of being, yeah, like I'm tired every day, and I'm usually like, I'm too tired to do my TikTok video today or to review a keyboard somebody sent me, or so I can imagine that, yeah, on radio it's like it's hard to be on every day and to be on TV to look good, or if like you have a cold or whatever. So I can
It's
imagine.
definitely a challenge. So sometimes I'll fill in on the morning show, and we're talking like getting up for 4 a.m., right? And I go in, and the co-host, her name is Colleen. She's amazing, and she's just so full of energy. And but you've got to be on. Once you crack that mic at 5:30 or so, you have to know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So it's a challenge, and not only that, but you think of the 24-hour clock. I mean, you have to go to bed at a certain time. You can't really hang out with people because you need to try to get that 6 7 hour 8 hours of sleep in, right? So
Right,
um
right. So yeah, if you're going to bed, if you have to be up like on air at 4 or whatever, then you got to go to bed pretty early, so you can't go out for dinner or do things with people. So that would be a challenge. And then yeah, the
it's
other thing, the fact that you do the music direction, that reminded me, whenever I see these jobs postings, a lot of them are looking for program director and part-time host, or music director and host. I'm like, I don't even know what directing is, so I wouldn't be able, obviously I'm not going to come in and be a station manager for if I've never worked before. So it's
that is the part of the business too. I mean, you have to have a few hats. So they call me the swing announcer. A swing announcer on Boom, and I'm the assistant music director, and then I'm a community guy, and then I'm a social media guy, and like you have to do all these things, right? Because you can't just have the one skill anymore, because there aren't as many jobs. And even on Boom, if you can imagine, so I'm like I'm repetitive, but almost a quarter of a century, and I have the least amount of on-air experience on that station. So
wow.
so it's a major market radio station, and that's the unfortunate side if you go to Algonquin for radio broadcasting, because a lot of the students want to just jump in on a station in Ottawa, but you need to sort of get your feet wet somewhere else before you can move up like that. I was a bit lucky, but it was the 90s. It was a bit easier perhaps whenever I moved to Ottawa, but yeah, you have to be a jack of all trades.
Yeah, that's what because yeah, I looked up the loyalist program. I guess that's what I looked
Yeah.
up a year ago, and I was watching some webinar, and I commented in the chat, like, do you think somebody like my age could still go? And they were like, we had people older in the class. It's just you can't be one of those people that like, oh, I'm not going to learn Twitter. I don't want to know that stuff. Or you still have to be on top of this. And I'm like, no, I understand social media. I can do that. I'm young in my head kind of thing. But
Yeah.
yeah, am I going to go to Loyalist for 2 years now and come out at 51 or something and be like, I'm ready to break? Like, it's probably not realistic. So I think for myself, I have to do something like, this podcast, or just whatever, whatever I can do on my own, rather than, or maybe I can find maybe it's time to go to Yorkton, Saskatchewan or something, just to break in.
Mhm.
So what would your advice be to, I guess, somebody wants to break into radio, kind of do what you're saying, go to Algonquin or go to like do the radio
Yeah.
program and then try to find a small market?
I mean, I think I think it's important to get that education because it's the education is definitely on your resume. and you learn skills, on the college stations that you wouldn't want to learn on the big stations, meaning like all the mistakes you'd make and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
it's good to get the education. I mean, but there's plenty of people who have broke into radio without that education, with the other backgrounds in life. They start on the street team, or maybe they find another, like say an office manager perhaps, or something like that, right? And then they get to know the program directors, they get to read a couple commercials, and they can find their way in that way as well. But to land a full-time position in a major market, keep in mind too, secrets of radio, a lot of those people you hear on the air aren't even in the building. They're in different markets perhaps. As you
Right.
heard me mention earlier, I'm on Cornwall radio, and I'm not really there a lot, let's put it that way, right? So it may be tough to land a full-time gig.
Yeah.
So, that may be a bit of a challenge. I mean, I spent, I think, 3 or 4 years at Boom before I landed full time. After being full time at different radio stations in town, you lose your position. You got to work your way back up again. So it's a challenge. It's a major challenge for sure. And
Yeah.
even with all my years experience, like if I was to lose my position here, like it would be tough for me to get in anywhere else in Ottawa because there's no positions, or I'm too old, or I don't have the correct sound, or I'm not a news guy, or so
Yeah. Because
challenging.
I mean, how many jobs can there even be? Maybe there's 5 in Ottawa. So and there's like hundreds of people who would want to do the job. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Challenging business, but I also tell anybody, right? It's like if you love something, just go for it. Like whatever it is in life, go for it, because we've only got this one life, right? So, and like you said, like a year later, like you could have done this, and like, so a year from now, where do you want to be? Like, just go for it.
that's the way I have to look at it. Because like even 2 years ago, I was having a meltdown just before COVID. I'm like, what could I do? Do I go back and do a master's? Do I marry this girl and have a kid or whatever? And I didn't. And now 2 years later, it's like, okay, well now it would have been done. I would have had my master's or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and I wouldn't even mind part time on the radio because I do like doing different things. I'd be happy to do all my little things and just come on the radio every now and then. So I guess
Yeah.
I guess I'll keep at it. But who knows? Maybe I'll become Joe Rogan and just do these interviews and
Yeah.
become my own big thing. Um, yeah, I did, and I mean, breaking in through other jobs. That's what I always imagined it would be. Like, just go and hang out and be the assistant, and somebody will say, "Hey, you're funny. Come and comment on this or whatever."
Yeah.
And
Totally.
so I
Yeah.
was emailing all these stations, and then maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, I reached the program manager for Hot 89.9 or something, and she's like, "You sound
Mhm.
interesting." And I went in to talk to her, and she's like, "Oh, what music do you like? What station would you?" I'm like, "Wow, she actually likes me." And there wasn't anything yet, I guess, but she heard about a copywriting job in Toronto for two state. It was like Boom and whatever their sister station was.
Mhm.
And I guess in my head, I was like, I don't know, I don't want to be a copywriter again or whatever. And so I kind of showed up late for the interview, and I was covered in rain because I hadn't brought an umbrella. And it turns out there was like 10 people in this room, and I was like, oh my God, like this was a big meeting. And so I guess I didn't impress them. But I mean, that could have been my way in, right? Like that, I'm copywriting, I'm already a voice actor. I could have been like, hey, I wrote this commercial, I could voice this. And they'd be like, hey, you're kind of funny. Hey, the Bob's sick today. Can you fill in for whatever? And that, I mean, that would have been the way to get into radio rather than thinking, hey, make me your morning host, even though I've never done anything.
Yeah, you mean you aim high, obviously, but start small. And I'm huge. Another piece of advice I give to everybody is be a yes person. Like if you have if somebody presents you with an opportunity, I mean, just like you and I here, right? It's like, we wanted to do this interview, and yeah, of course, let's find the time, because you never know what comes from things.
Yeah.
You say yes to this, you show up here, you show up there, you meet people, and windows, doors, they're constantly opening. But if you keep saying no, you keep closing yourself down, you're too shy or reserved. I get it, it's difficult sometimes, but just be a yes person and see what happens, see what rolls in.
Yeah, that's definitely what I've learned. Like years ago, there was a director who had done like Chainsaw Massacre and the new Conan movie or something. He was pitching, he wanted to be like a commercial director for us at the agency. And I talked to his assistant or something. And then they were like, hey, we want you to help write this show about advertising we've got. But then I talked to some woman I barely knew who's a producer. She's like, oh, they're not offering you enough money. You should ask for more. And eventually they're like, ah, forget it. And I was like, this is a Hollywood director. I could have written like what the hell else was I doing? Like, why not do it for whatever they had or for free, like, or pay to do it? So
Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, I can't go in the past now, but all these things I wish, like, yeah, just try it. Like actually there was this 15 years ago or something, this wildlife organization in Africa, like they have a wildlife preserve, and they were like, hey, come down for a month and you can do funny web broadcasts from Africa. And I was like, I don't know, it's pretty far. I'd have to use all my vacation time, and I'd
Yeah.
be lonely and bored. And like, you'd be lonely and bored in the middle of the Africa, like, just do it. That'd be a story. Who knows?
Yeah.
So it's like, but I mean, I could live my life with regret for every little thing I didn't do. So I'll just try to
Well,
keep at it.
it goes back to the comedy, right? Like, so you say last year you didn't succeed the way you wanted to, and then you went back and you won your night. So no one will ever be able to take that from you. So you could have just stayed home and not done it, or you could, or now you have a cool story to impress people at parties.
It's true. And I was very
You won
close
your
to
night.
not doing it. I was like, I don't want, why the hell am I doing this? I didn't
Yeah.
even have any jokes 2 days before. I'm like, what am I going to talk about? So then I just wrote the story of getting my second vaccine shot 2 days earlier. And I'm like, okay, well, at least they'll see that this is a fresh story. So even if it's not funny, maybe I'll get some slack, because they're like, well, clearly he made it up 2 days ago. This isn't his 30 years of best material. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I figure for round 2 next week, it'll be like, yeah, what have I done since the vaccine? How's it changed my life? They promised that everybody said after you get your vaccine, you can see friends, and I'm like, hasn't worked. So I don't. I have no friends still. So the
I know,
vaccine didn't work.
and we're still doing Zoom interviews. So,
Yeah, exactly. What the heck?
yeah, thanks, vaccine.
Yeah, so
But
much.
yeah, yeah. But no, man, it just, I'm impressed by, what you do online. You seem like unbelievable energy. It just, even when we message privately, I'm like, how are you? And you're like, paragraph, you know,
Yeah, it's a
which isn't a bad thing. What I'm saying is, like, where do people find this energy? Like, where do you, and you're just out there, and like you said, you've done 9 interviews and you still need to publish. Like, that's exhausting.
yeah.
So keep
It's a
going,
lot.
right?
Yeah, like I interviewed this woman this morning. I saw her in my calendar. I'm like, who is this? But I got to go to the funeral. But I'll just talk to her. And eventually I went into my Instagram, like, oh, we've just met on this Shaper networking app, and yeah, I didn't even know who she was, but turned out that she's like a disabled, like she's got visually impaired, and she's in Brooklyn, and she just likes making TikTok videos about blind issues and stuff. So it was sweet. I felt like I could get her word out, and she was a nice girl, and it's like,
That's great.
and I just, yeah, like I think I do it, and the same reason I like radio. It just makes me feel a bit less lonely. I'm like, I'm reaching out to people, I'm talking to people, and
Hmm.
maybe I can help them out by getting their story out. And yeah, it's like, probably some people think I'm oversharing if I message a big paragraph, and or if I message people randomly, they'll be like, that's kind of random, why are you telling me this? I'm like, I don't know, I'm just telling you. Like a lot of times if people say, how are you, you're just supposed to say fine, but I'm like, no, I'll tell you actually how I am and what I'm doing, and if you don't
No, it's
like it,
great.
that's fine. Yeah.
You're a communicator, right? And I've learned a lot about you just through our messages, and I just don't have the energy to write as much.
Mm.
I
Well,
think, that's all it is.
no, my secret usually is that I voice type. So I'll be like, "Hey Dylan, it's actually da 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 da." Like,
Oh,
so,
okay.
yeah, I'm not sitting there by thumb, because that would drive me crazy. Um,
Yeah, it's one way
that,
to do it. Yeah,
that's a
yeah.
cheat. And then lately, I've been cheating even more, just doing the audio message and be like, "Yeah, I'm doing this." Da, da, da. And when people do that back, I'm like, "Oh God, I see a 60-second audio message. I don't want to listen to what they've said. I'd
Ah,
rather read it and skim it." So
yeah,
the
yeah,
karma comes back to get you.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, but I got a message from some random woman on Instagram, I don't know, a few months ago. She's like a doctor, some kind of cancer doctor or something. And she just said she thanked me for my posts. Like she says I'm encouraging her to go after her dreams. I'm like, but my posts are all like about me regretting everything I haven't done. She's like, yeah, it's because you're open and honest about your feelings. It helps me.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, and I
Good.
get messages like that every now and then. So like some people are like, oh, why are you complaining all the time? But I'm like, I don't know. To me, I feel like when I see people I admire, like Philip DeFranco is a big YouTuber, and if he ever like sometimes he'll go on and say he's been depressed lately and he hasn't been on, or he's really tired today, didn't get any sleep. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, so even he's doing a show because he's even though he's tired or he's depressed and he's a big YouTuber. So it's I guess it shouldn't comfort me, but it makes me feel like, okay, we've all got our crap. So if I feel bad today, that's okay. Even Beyonce's feeling bad today or something. And
Oh yeah, it totally. I mean, because I'm on the air Saturday, Sunday mornings live, and so I'm there at 8 a.m. So that means I've gotten up around 6:30. Sometimes I'll walk to work, and it's a 45-minute walk. So you add all that up, right? And 8 times out of 10, like I'm not feeling great, but it's entertainment. You still have to do your job, and you could never tell. Like I'm very good at masking things. emotions on air because I'm a professional. But like we all have our days where we're not feeling great, or especially as we're getting older, especially as we're dealing with the pandemic, all that kind of stuff, right? So I mean,
Yeah.
we're all human.
Yeah, even I just watched this little clip of Brad Pitt giving an award speech on Instagram, and he's like, "I'm getting old. I can't do night shoots anymore. I no
Yeah.
longer remember the first rule of Fight Club or whatever." You know, so he's got,
Yeah, he's great.
but I keep picturing Tom Cruise. I'm like, you know what? He's almost 60. He's flying to space. He's riding motorcycles everywhere. I'm like, that's my model. Or The Rock is pretty much my age, and I'm like, okay, he's doing all right. He's got new kids, and
Yeah,
but
but
I
who
don't.
knows what they're really going through behind closed doors, right? Who knows? Like maybe they hate every second of it. I mean, we don't know, right? We don't know how they're feeling,
Yeah,
you know.
which frustrates me too, because then I'm like, okay, so if I became The Rock, would I still be depressed? Like, uh, I don't know.
Yeah, you could look at it that way too, I guess, right? But you'd
It's
probably
fun.
be okay with the money. That would probably make you a little happier.
Yeah.
I'd be
Well,
happy.
the one thing, this guy James Altucher, I listen to his podcast a lot. And he keeps saying that, even a lot of money, or even bad things or good things, they change your feelings for a little bit. Like if you won all this money, you'd be happy for a few days, but basically you always come down to your baseline of happiness. And the only thing scientifically shown to change it is to practice gratitude.
Mhm.
Every day make a list of 10 things you care about, and that will raise your happiness. But I almost want to do a stand-up bit about it. It's like, really? Because like, if I got $10 million, I'd automatically be grateful. But if I have to come up with something like, yeah, I'm grateful for the birds and the trees, like if I have to force myself to be grateful for it, I don't know if it's worth being grateful for. Glad I got up this morning and smelled coffee. It's like that's the baseline. That's that's
Doesn't get better than that during the course of the day, for sure.
God.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
whatever. But I do know that when I do a talk like this with someone like you, it takes me out
yeah.
of my own head. Like I feel good for an hour because I'm
It's
not,
good.
I'm talking to somebody. I'm not lonely, and I'm learning something, and hopefully, and
Mhm.
I feel like I'm being creative and productive. So I know that helps. And
To me, being productive is almost everything. Like I just feel like I need a purpose. I have days off. Sometimes Mondays, Tuesdays are normally my days off, and if I don't have something to do, like I literally don't feel well. My head hurts, my stomach's upside down. I need to do stuff. I need to be productive. So even this here with you tonight, like it's fun. Like we get to know each other. You get it online. Maybe it inspires some people. Like you feel like you've done something
yeah,
instead of just watching Netflix, right? So.
and that's
Um,
the thing. And a lot of people don't understand that. Like I've had girlfriends where I'm like, hey, instead of just having this conversation, can we record it? And like they'd be like, well, why do you have to record everything? Like why can't we just sit here? And I'm like, but I want. And I've always felt that way. Even university, like instead of going to pub, I always feel depressed. I wouldn't pick up, and so I'm like, I'd rather. Uh, write a song and record a song with some people in the bathroom because the acoustics are good. I always felt like that's good. Like, and the way like people are like, yeah, but what do you do for fun? I'm like, but I enjoy being creative and doing that's fun to me. Like I think a
yeah,
lot of people, for them, work is work, but for fun, they watch Netflix or they go to the mall. But for me,
yeah,
creating things is fun. So
totally. Being
it,
productive for me is fun. People ask me that all the time. What do you do for fun? I'm like, well, I work. Well, no, to me, work is my hobby. Work like charity, like helping people, communicating. Like that's what I love to do. I don't knit. Like this is what I do. So
yeah, and I
being
get. Sorry, go ahead.
no, being productive, like, yeah, I love the movies. I love television too. I love music, obviously, but like, I just want to be productive. I want to leave a legacy for my son. I want to have made a difference. I want to have made my time count.
Yeah,
So
and
that's what
that's
I try to do.
yeah, and that's what I feel like. I feel like I'm a creator. Like I can't. I mean, I probably do waste a lot of time on my phone and stuff, like watching videos. But I don't. I can't sit down to watch a series. Like I'm going to watch 20 hours of Game of Thrones. So I'm like, I should be creating something, and that's
Yeah.
I mean, we do need the audience as well as creators. But I'm a creator, so I get in these fights all the time on online dating, and the women will say, oh, your profile sounds like a resume. Like you're talking about how you ran for mayor, and you're like, but that's who I am. That's what I enjoy doing. Yeah, okay, but I want to know the real you. What do you do for fun when you're not working? I'm like, but that's I don't know. Go for a walk. Like pick up
Yeah.
litter sometimes, but that's what I enjoy doing. Yeah, but I want to. You're selling yourself. Like you're not getting it. But there's got to be
Yeah.
other people like me out there that be like, yes, I also love creating. Like my mom was saying, like you need a partner, like like George and Gracie, like George Burns had his wife, or like somebody who would get me, or friends who get me. It's like, hey, let's make content together, because that's when I feel kind of happiness rather than, yeah, I want to feel like, hey, we did something. We've got a little video out of it. It's
Well, I'm old enough to know that tomorrow could be the best day of your life, right? And things change quickly for the positive. And even to go back to a quick story about being a yes person is Derek Fage was a fella in town. He's still in town. He was with Rogers Television, and he was the host of Daytime, and I used to co-host with him. And one day he asked me, "Can you come in and co-host with me?" And I didn't really feel like it that day. I had something big planned that night I needed to prepare for, but I went and I saw a woman sitting in the green room, and now we have a 4-year-old. So so that's a story that I tell everybody, right? That if I hadn't have said yes to Derek and gone in that day to co-host, my little boy Maxwell would not be my little boy. I would have never met her. So be a yes person, because you never know what is around the corner when you show up.
That is a very inspiring story. Because yeah, like, if I sit watching Netflix tonight, almost guaranteed I'm not going to randomly meet a woman at some point. But if you go out and try something, go do comedy, or I think Conan O'Brien met his wife because she was like a commercial producer working with him for something, or
Yeah,
so whatever you do, maybe you'll just make friends, or even just
yeah.
leaving the house. I was charging my phone in the market, and some guy was like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And he bought me drinks, and now he moved
Well,
back to Saskatchewan, but I sat having drinks with this 61-year-old divorced guy, hearing about his son for 3 hours, whatever.
well,
So I'm not gonna have kids with him, but
no, you probably shouldn't. But
yeah,
it's downtime is very important, of course, too. Your alone time. I'm alone a big part of my life, but I'm just saying, when opportunities present itself and it feels right, I think people should go for it. I just go for it. If you're afraid, even better, because you're going to learn something out of it.
yeah,
You know?
that's the thing. That's usually how I decide. Should I do something? Am I scared? Yes. All right, do it. Because I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to let my fear overcome me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I keep trying. So yeah, hopefully that's the message people are taking away from this. Just
I hope
just do it.
so.
Yeah. What's the
Yeah.
worst that'll happen?
If not, it's just been two guys with great V-neck shirts.
I was noticing how, yeah, like I'm wearing a dark gray one right now, but I also have a black one, a diesel
Yeah.
shirt that's almost exactly like that, and I should look for it in my pile of shirts. So this is one thing I want to do for the next
Yeah.
comedy. I told myself for the next night I'm gonna print up a shirt with like my name or something on it. Just so, because I find like it's hard for people to who was that? Who am I supposed to vote for? Or
Yeah.
I want to be like, hey, if you liked me, or maybe there was a girl in the audience who liked me, add me to Instagram. So I just wanted it on my shirt the whole time. So I could get at Josh Rackless, which is what I'm using currently. But I'm
Totally.
also trying to come up with a new name. Like I could be Dylan Black. I guess maybe not. But so yeah, for a while there I was using Celebrity Josh because I'm like interview celebrities, and but
Yeah.
and I'm kind of getting bored of that. So then I came up with this another name because I want a single name like Sting or Pink that's just like easy to say. So I decided I want the name Spark. I don't know why, because I'm sparking ideas, I'm sparking things in people. But I can't get spark.com. So I had the idea, what if I'm Spark the Genius, like Tyler the Creator, Cedric the Entertainer, Spark the Genius. And it's got this double meaning because it's like, that's my mantra. I'm telling people to spark the genius, like do something smart today or try something. I don't know what it means.
So the reason why I would go against that is because you've already built something with Celebrity Josh, and
Mhm.
you've built it over years. And so like it's sort of like if I was to go back to my first radio name, then all of a sudden everything I've done as Dylan Black over the last 16 years would like where what happened to him, like you've built something. And I think
Yeah.
Celebrity still fits because it is your name. And not only that, but you are interviewing celebrities, and you're becoming one with all these amazing interviews, right? So I just think it fits.
Yeah, and it has the other meaning that it's like I'm joshing around with celebrities, so it's the celebrity
Yeah,
Josh, right? See, I
totally.
guess I could keep it. Like I mean, I haven't really built enough around it that people would even know. Like I wouldn't
Yeah.
be losing too much. I could stick with Josh Rackless because if you Google that, like I'm Googled, I've got my name verified on Facebook. But Rackless is just it's hard to spell. Like I've realized anybody's name, if it's not simple like The Rock, it's very hard to remember. So, but
And,
yeah,
and,
I don't know.
and Dylan Black because everybody knows how to say it. So I
Yeah,
look at your name, and I is it Rachless? Is it Reckless? Is it
yeah.
that's all I'm saying, right? So like it's good to have like Celebrity Josh is great, but if you go by your full name, not that you're not proud of it, people are going to have a struggle with it.
And
So that
that's Yeah, my
Definitely right.
boss for 15 years. Every time she would introduce me at the annual lunch, it'd be like Josh Retschleese, like she doesn't know my name. And there is no, I mean, we don't even know why it's pronounced Rackless. It could be anything. So yeah, it's not helping. I
Yeah,
mean, you could easily type it wrong. I type it wrong sometimes. So that's why I adopted Celebrity Josh. So I'm like, at least it's two words that you know how to spell. So I've got celebrityjosh.com. At least I can use that.
that's great.
I don't know.
I
It's
think it's great.
too many syllables. I hate that people like have to go celebrity. It's like by the point, like they don't.
I think you're overthinking it. I think it's great.
I'm definitely overthinking it. All right, so should I actually? You know what? I've already got a Celebrity Josh shirt printed up from a few years ago, so
Yeah,
I could wear
yeah,
that to the event and say I'm
totally.
So yeah, I guess you're not emceeing the event, but if would the host, would I sound douchey as a comedian, like saying, and next up, Celebrity Josh? Is that ridiculous?
No, yeah, no, because I think it's, there's a fella in town. He's in Hollywood, Mr. Hollywood,
Mm,
and Matt Demers, and he goes by Mr. Hollywood. And it's not because he thinks he's a superstar; it's because he's interviewing people that work in Hollywood.
yeah,
So, but it stands out. I think it's good to have a little bit of an attitude, a little bit of an ego. Like there's nothing wrong with it, right? It gets people talking.
yeah,
So,
exactly. Like, oh yeah, and when they hear me talking about self-deprecating, they go, oh, realize, okay, so he's kind of, it's kind of an ironic name that he's not a
yeah,
celebrity, but he wants to be. So whatever. It's like
if it
people,
was Josh the celebrity, then that's a little
yeah,
much.
yeah, that's a
It's
bit.
celebrity Josh.
That would be a good rapper name. But yeah, when I was using Celebrity Josh for a while, like I'd go to a party somebody was having for her podcast, she'd be like, "Oh, and this is Celebrity Josh." He's like, "Oh, why Celebrity Josh?" They want to know, "Are you a celebrity?" Like they
Yeah.
instantly, yeah, they'll remember it rather than because if you say just a regular name, it's Josh Rackless, you're Steve Smith, it doesn't tell you anything. So I feel
Yeah.
like everybody should have a name that becomes something visual, becomes a story that becomes like it's. I
Mhm.
mean, this is your chance. This is your headline. This is the name of the movie that is you, the brand.
Totally.
Like, why not? Why stick with?
Yeah.
I mean, most people don't. They're not creators, performers. They don't care if their name is,
Yeah.
John Schmickelbitz or whatever. But I know Ty Lopez was saying like, if you've got a name that's hard to spell or like do something with it so that you can help yourself. Like Faith Popcorn is a
Yeah.
big sort of psychic, but her real name is Faith Plotkin. But I don't know, a
Yeah.
kid or somebody said it sounded like popcorn, so now she's Faith Popcorn. So it's easy to remember that, but you wouldn't remember. So I always love looking into people's names, the history of Jay-Z or Snoop Dogg or what these people's names were. And I'll bet a lot of them wouldn't be that big. Like Sting might not be big if he stuck with Gordon Sumner, So
Yeah.
or
Exactly.
who the hell is Pink? Lady Gaga, what is her name? Stephanie something. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I
Elton
always
John.
Elton
Yeah.
John, yeah, I'm sure none of these names are real. I just
No.
figure, I feel like as a rap star, a rapper, it's easier, or a rock star, it's like easier to come up with a name. Like you can be Bono, you can be The Edge. But if you're a comedian, you come up, you're like, my name's Carrot Top. You're like, it just almost sounds a bit douchey. It's like,
You have
why?
to be famous you have to be famous to have the name Carrot Top.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
You can't start
it
off.
wasn't already famous. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're going to open mics and they're like, okay, our lineup today is David Smith and Jen Smith and Carrot Top. It's like, you better be damn good, you know, to be.
Yeah.
So maybe they can still introduce me as Josh Rackless, but I'll be like, by the way, I'm known as Celebrity Josh. Uh, and then there'll be just dead silence. Like, okay, next joke. I don't know, something. Yeah,
Amazing.
I'll come up with
Awesome
something.
stuff, man.
Cool. Well, thank you. I know you're a busy person.
I got some to take care of here.
You got something? You got a little kid to take care of?
I got some. You never know what my duties are in this crazy world, But I am on the radio tomorrow, so I got to get my beauty sleep at some point.
Ooh, right.
Um,
All right. I'll tune in. You know what? I never listen to the radio anymore. Like I just sort of listen to podcasts. I think I should tune in. I like the radio, and it's comforting to know that it's still there. Do you
well,
ever?
now you and all your viewers have a reason to tune in.
Yes. All right. So you're on Boom 90 something in Ottawa?
99.7. Yes.
Very exciting. What time are you on tomorrow?
Tomorrow, 9 a.m., 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., Saturdays and Sundays.
Wow. Did like people send you fan emails or see you in the street, or like do you get feedback from the audience? Do you know?
Yeah, people are really nice. I get the odd message of people that appreciate what we do and love the music and when I do my charity stuff, that's when I get most of my response.
Mm,
People are very grateful and appreciative, and that always warms your heart because it makes you feel like you're on the right path. It makes you feel like you're doing the right thing. So, like I said,
yes.
I like to use my platform for good, and my bosses are amazing. The people that I've worked for throughout the years have allowed me to do the things I do and use that airspace for good and makes a big difference. So that's what I'm all about.
That's awesome. You're like who's the guy in the Microsoft? Bill Gates, like with his massive charities and everything.
I'm
That's
the same guy. I'm living
Hey.
in a mansion. That's what I have to do. I got to go clean the East Wing after
Yeah.
this, and it's calling me.
Makes
So,
sense. Cool.
yeah.
Yeah. When I was on the cable shows, I used to get people would call in and leave like voice messages, and then people would transcribe it and print it out. And so I would see some about like, we're two doctors and we love Josh's show, or
Yeah.
when I was on CFRB, they got a few fan emails and stuff like, we really love Josh, and I'm like, I think he feels
Nice.
so good. So yeah,
Yeah.
so maybe if anybody's listening to this, you can comment and say, we love Dylan, we love Josh in the Apple podcast comments or reviews or
Yeah,
something.
please
Cool.
do.
Well, thanks so
Awesome.
much. And if you ever need a funny correspondent on Boom, I'll come in and give a movie review or something. And
Amazing. Well, I appreciate your time, and just keep doing what you're doing. Celebrity Josh for life. You know what I'm saying?
all right. See, now I've got the story to tell on Colbert when they're like, well, how did you? I'm like, Dylan Black told me to stick with Celebrity Josh. And that's it.
Amazing.
Cool. All
Thank
right.
you.
Thanks so much. Oh, and if people want to find you, like, like where they follow you on social media or whatever?
It's easy. I try to keep the handle the same, pretty much, like consistent for Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. It's Dylan Black Radio, and that's pretty much where you can find me, just about anywhere. So, and I love being on social media. I love to interact. I think it's just, I mean, it's a time waster, but it's also productive in many aspects when you use it for good. And I love to connect with people. It's important.
Yeah. All right. So everybody go connect with Dylan. Waste more of his time.
Awesome. Waste my time. Bring it on. Thank you, Josh.
All right. Bye.
Bye.